So the first part of this session was focused on registries, and registries are the inputs, as Dr. Glassman was saying, the inputs of data that our profession is collecting currently. And I'm pleased to then now transition to the next part of this session, which is on AI. And if anyone's been following the stock price of NVIDIA, it's amazing that a video game chip company could now have become the third biggest company in the world by valuation in just the past 3 months. So it's my pleasure to introduce Rohit Ali. Rohit is a 6-year resident at Brown in neurosurgery. And he's, as part of the younger generation, has taken upon himself to really get into this AI realm and world. And he's actually published on this recently, including something in the New England Journal of Medicine that I think he'll be talking to us about. So he's going to start this next part on AI, ChatGPT, and what we have in store for the future. Right?
Thank you to Dr. Chi and the members of the Spine Summit Executive Committee for the opportunity to speak today. So the generative AI revolution is here, and I've been very proud that over the past year I've had the opportunity to be a part of a team that has contributed key findings in the field of generative AI and its implications for neurosurgery and healthcare overall. We found that ChatGPT and other state-of-the-art large language models achieve passing performance on the neurosurgery written board examinations. We were the first to quantify rates of hallucination by large language models in answering medical imaging questions. We proposed a framework for neurosurgical leadership in the era of artificial intelligence. And last fall in JAMA Surgery, we published key findings on bias in AI text-to-image generators. We have been heartened with the response in our ability to affect the national discourse on this topic with coverage in NPR, the Boston Globe, and other national and international print media, television and radio outlets, including non-English outlets. But the question I'm asking today is, how can we apply generative AI in a clinically meaningful way? In 1980, the New England Journal of Medicine published this report examining the average readability of surgical consent forms. And it found that despite the average American reading at the level of a middle school student, the average reading level of a surgical consent form is that of a college student. So the first question we asked was, over 40 years later, have we made any progress? Unfortunately not. We collected surgical consent forms from 15 different active medical centers from across the country and found that on average, the reading level of these consent forms was that of a college sophomore. So we asked, could ChatGPT help simplify these consent forms along with expert human oversight? We pasted these consent forms into ChatGPT and prompted it, while preserving content and meaning, convert this consent to the average American reading level. ChatGPT then was able to reduce the reading complexity of the surgical consent form from that of a college sophomore on average to that of a middle school student, and was also able to reduce the word count, the usage of passive sentences, and also the mean word rarity, so exchanging words like respiratory failure with stop breathing. Most importantly, we had a team of clinicians and also a medical malpractice attorney review the simplified consent forms, and we found that the simplified forms retain the same medical legal content as their originals, and these findings will be soon published in a Nature Family journal. But the next question we asked is, can we adopt this in our own home? And so I worked and trained at the largest healthcare system in the state of Rhode Island. We perform over 35,000 surgeries every year. Our universal surgical consent form is written at the level, or was written at the level, of a college freshman. And so, working with our colleagues in the Surgical Executive Committee, anesthesiology, risk, legal, patient advocacy groups, we were able to utilize ChatGPT with their oversight and simplify our surgical consent form from 3 pages down to 1, and also from the reading level of a college freshman down to the reading level of a 6th grade student. And since last fall, this consent form has been adopted and in continuous use to consent every patient who undergoes surgery across our entire healthcare system. Our findings have been published last month in the New England Journal of Medicine AI. And since the initial adoption of the surgical consent forms, this initiative permeated through our healthcare system, being used to simplify chemotherapy consent forms, the standard patient intake form, radiation consent forms, and others. We have been really heartened to see, again, the response across the national community for this initiative. The work has been explicitly discussed at the White House AI Select Committee. We have been approached by the VA to adopt this initiative across their entire healthcare system. Greg Brockman, the president of OpenAI, and others with the OpenAI team have been tremendously supportive in this initiative and accelerating its adoption in a more widespread manner. But going back to what Dr. Asher challenged us to think yesterday, what matters? And the question is, why does consent form readability matter? In an upcoming publication, we argue that it does. We examined 798 federally funded clinical trials conducted over the past 2 decades. We found that, unsurprisingly, the average reading level of these consent forms was over a half a decade of education higher than the average American reading level. And this trend withstood the test of time and also was similar across different types of interventions and also different complexity in clinical trial design. We then asked, can the clinical trial consent form's readability predict the likelihood of someone dropping out from a clinical trial? And in a heavily risk-adjusted model, we found that for every grade level increase in a clinical trial's consent form, the readability, the participant dropout rate increases on average by 16%. And we believe this finding underscores the importance of extending the benefits of the generative AI revolution to all, including the most vulnerable. With that, thank you again to my amazing team and members of the Spine Summit Executive Committee for inviting me to be here today. Thank you.